Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts and ideas to help grow healthy, happy, successful families that are both inside.
And outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like review on your favorite podcast platform.
I now have the pleasure of introducing Joanne Williams. Joanne, LCSW, is a therapist focusing on supporting individuals and families with anxiety reduction, PTSD, and confidence recovery with her 30 years of experience. One of Joanne's specialties to enhance clients' lives is guiding them step by step through the American with Disabilities Act process to use their own dogs as psychiatric service dogs to fly with them, be in no pet housing with no fees or restrictions. ServiceDogPro.com. She is the author of Super Dogs Helps Boys Fears, a book written to help families talk about emotions. She is the host of a top 100 anxiety relief podcast, Anxiety Simplified. And welcome, Joanne. It is a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it as well to talk to you and your listeners.
I am super excited because we are combining a bunch of things that are just so important to family: pets, dogs, getting help when you need help, so reducing anxiety, all these different things that keep cropping up in our lives. And we're hoping that this show will give families just, one or two more tools to put in the pocket and then take out and use so that everybody can feel a little bit better and just be serious about raising our happy, healthy, and successful kids. So again, Joanne, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start out with passion. Why this passion? Why this long career? What is it about therapy and service dogs and things like that that really was your pivot point, got you started on all of this?
Well, I think most of ours, I think probably most of your listeners, it started somewhere in childhood. There was something missing. I mean, same with mine. I grew up in a chaotic, really neglectful home, but my brother had attention deficit with hyperactivity, which he was out of control. And my parents had no clue on any kind of emotional regulation. And I know you guys talk about that a lot too. What do you do, to get yourself back? It didn't. And so he was just so abusive. So it was constantly, I felt like now I know, looking at it was like survival mode. Like, where is he? What is he going to do next? So I was always looking around, waiting for something else to happen. So really that led me into counseling after marrying my first husband, who was alcoholic, narcissist, because I was a people pleaser. So I was a conflict avoider. So of course, I'm just going to do anything to keep everybody calm and happy, right? Well, that didn't work out so well. So I got into counseling, and that's really where I started understanding emotions, how to deal with them, and ways to really manage post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety. That led to my career that I've been doing for 30 years.
When did the dogs start coming in? The dog training,
Yeah.
the dog certification. What was that
Yeah,
pivot?
that's interesting. I know, because I did start out with children in trauma in a children's mental hospital, and then with a child advocacy center for children that are abused, and in uh, domestic violence homes. So that was my first shot at like looking at like the traumatic effects that can happen. The kids don't even realize, or families don't even realize, oh, this is way off families are, right? And then, so I felt that way. And then when I was, so about 13 years ago, I was flying on a plane and I was having a panic attack. And I had my little dog stuffed in one of the little carriers underneath the seat that you'd have to do if you fly with a pet. And it was actually the kind flight attendant that came over to me and said, "Do you know that there's a law that if you have a letter from your therapist, you could actually have your little dog on your lap? And I see it all the time that it helps people to fly without anxiety." I'm like, what? Here I've been a therapist, what, for 20 whatever years. I never knew about this law. So I did my research and I did find out there's actually three laws that then I started helping clients who with anxiety, with any kind of psychological disorders that could use any of these three laws, whether it is to fly, be in housing, no pet housing, or even in all public places under the Americans with Disabilities Act law. So now I feel like I want people to know about this. And I want to share something that's been going on for 50 years, over 50 years, that most people and most families don't know about how to take advantage of this. I think a lot of people think, oh, my kid has to be so bad, or I have to be so helpless, or, it has to be so bad, or they think it's a scam. I don't believe that, you know? And so they don't do anything about it. And so that's really what I like to do, talk about ways to help families, children, even adults that have psychological diagnosis to use these three laws to their as an invisible disability.
Yeah, because the scam part, it's like I've known people who've like went and did that and they didn't actually need that. And so now we've gone places and they say not only do you have to have like that certificate, but you have to actually prove that this isn't just one of those like scammy kind that you really need the dog. So so then now there's like this stigma that I have because I would love to be able to travel with my dogs. Do I need to? No.
And it's interesting, that viewpoint. Where did that come from? And I see it as a stigma that continues from mental illness.
Yeah.
That we can see how somebody in a wheelchair or somebody blind that has a service dog, well, that's okay. But we can't quite go to somebody that may have a brain disorder or anxiety or PTSD. That can be. And I have a little dog. He's not even 7 pounds that I use as my service dog. And people do give me the and do think those thoughts. It's a judgment from the public that they do not understand about the laws and about what's required and what is possible to have a disability that's invisible. And that's why I call it invisible disability. We can't see it, but we don't respect it in the same way. So to answer your question, maybe I'll kind of go down through the three laws because they're different and they have different
before you
purposes.
do, I do kind of want
Uh-huh.
to say that I recognize that because
Yeah.
I hurt my head a lot and I
Yeah.
suffered a series of traumatic brain injuries, which is what it said on the scan that showed how much damage I've actually done to my head. Because my business fell apart, I ended up in bankruptcy, my emotional stability crashed. I lost my identity. I kind of exist in a liminal state now. So my reality is not like most people's reality anymore. So I understand how much I have a dog in my lap right now, sleeping. At the end of the show, she usually kind of pops up when we say goodbye. But it's like, do I need her? No, I don't need her. She irritates the crap out of me, but she also calms me down. And when I get anxious, she's up in my face until I have to pay attention to her. Okay.
Lets him know that something's off.
Now, it's not always comfortable, and she's not a service dog. She's not trained, and she's also a completely psycho little dog. And so I understand the invisibility because I seem very normal. And when I talk, I seem very put together. That's what the doctor said. It's like, wow, you seem really put together for as much brain damage as you have. Doctor actually said that to me. It's like crazy story. And so, yes, having that invisibility and people think, oh, he can do this. He doesn't need that. He should be able to do this. And then when I can't, yes, there is a shame. There is a judgment. That's part of what happens with me because it's like I wanked my prefrontal cortex and my anterior cingulate is overactive. So, I mean, you know what I'm talking about now. So it's like everything that calms me down is busted, and the thing that makes me worry is like overactive. It was like crazy stuff happens in my life. So
yeah,
I still feel bad because of how I grew up. Generation X, you don't talk about your feelings, you disappear. So I still don't talk with a therapist. I work with coaches to try and build my life, but damn if I'm going to talk to somebody. And that is something that isn't necessarily healthy for me. And so So there's like all sorts of questions in that. How do you help people like that? And also, what are the 3 laws that you were about to explain? Like,
All
we can
right.
take this all sorts of practical ways now.
Yeah, really can. And and I'm going to take it even first before I go through more of the dry stuff.
Uh,
But think about a sensitive child, one that does have anxiety, and they may want to protect you from your sadness of a situation or don't want you to worry. I don't want you to know that I feel this badly, right? And they say, "Oh, I'm fine." But they're not going places, or I'm tired, and they're actually overwhelmed, or I'll go next time. I'll go next time. But you notice that anxiety before they leave the house. So these are the kinds of things as parents, and if you were a child, we would hope your parents would notice. But what do they do? What can they do? And it leaves them feeling so helpless to be able to help you. And so that's why I love to talk about this and the laws, the facts, what you actually can do as a parent of a child, or maybe for somebody that you know. We probably all know those people, even our family. They don't go to social gatherings or families, or if they do, they stand there and then they leave as quick as they can. That's anxiety. And so if they have their dog with them, I'm telling you, people tell me all the time they break their icebreakers, or yeah, I don't care. They look at my dog, they talk to them and not me. So there's so many ways to use this. So let me start with the oldest law. 58 years ago, started with the Fair Housing Law, the FHA. I think we've all heard of FHA for loans and things like that. Well, it was started about discrimination so that you couldn't discriminate against people who had disabilities for housing. And so this included, all of these have always included psychological, emotional disabilities. But again, we don't talk about those, right? Just like you said, we don't talk about those emotional things. But this allows people or children to live in housing that is called no pet housing. Then there's no fees, deposits, there's no restrictions for weight or breeds, because that's a big one all over the place. I hear that, but they said it has to be under 20 condos, under 25 pounds, or the state law says you can't have an aggressive breed in housing. Well, this law states you can if you meet the requirements. And then that's where they no longer are considered pets. They're called emotional support animals. And they provide a service. And I think that's where this got really confusing, because that's where, and I'm going to blame it on the airlines, because they're the ones that say, oh, you can't bring a turkey on the airlines or a snake. But you could until 6 years ago, 2020. There's the second law is I call it the flying law. It's called the Air Carriers Access Law. But you could bring our dogs or our cats if they met the requirements. But then, so in the fair housing law, you can have any kind of animal, but it has to help you with a daily functioning, not just your anxiety, but how that anxiety affects your life. Maybe you sleep better because you have your animal with me. Maybe you interact with others. Maybe you socialize more. So it has to meet that requirement with a psychological symptom. So that's what
My
I
dog makes me
do.
go outside every day.
yes.
Okay. I know. And what you've already stated, this is one of the requirements to be a psychiatric service dog. They do this to you. You don't call them over to do something. They come to you and tell you. I call it alert you. You said something else earlier, but I call it, they alert you that your anxiety or whatever is coming up. So that goes to the third law, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act law, or most people know it as the ADA law, that again, that stigma really affects, because if they knew that, again, housing, fly with your dog in your, then flying, you can have them in your lap the entire time. They don't have to be in a carrier. I mean, that's life-changing when you can have them right next to you applying pressure therapy. But this is when, for the ADA law, that has been around, I think it's about 35 years, that that can make your life so much easier, even if you do look fine on the outside, but you're fighting this on the inside so nobody knows it. And so what I do as the process to be able to certify people, again, under these three laws, but mainly people just understand as the ADA law, that about you can't discriminate. But for the last 13 years, out of my 30 as a therapist, I've been certifying since that airplane ride that I found out about this. And I think it's made the biggest impact on people with post-traumatic stress disorder, because avoidance of emotions, talking about it, kind of like what you just said, actually is one of the biggest reasons why people don't go to a therapist or talk about it or learn skills. I just see it's all skill building. What do I do when in situations? But then for the ADA, they can go into all public places, all public transportations. So for a child, that could be schools, that could be college dorms. It's stores, restaurants, public places, all kinds of places that your kid may be avoiding. I don't want to go to college. I don't want to leave home. What if you could take your dog with you? That's a game changer. So we're looking at this, and what I do to certify people, I do 2 individual video chat sessions. One is around their symptoms. I have to diagnose. As a licensed therapist, I can diagnose under our diagnostic manual that these symptoms are affecting their life. And then under the ADA law, what they consider trained to do a task is that the dog recognizes, responds, and reduces psychological symptoms. So that's what I am certifying, that the dog notices, like I said, when your anxiety is starting to get higher, intervenes, whether they come up, maybe they just lean against you, maybe they poke you, maybe they lick you. But sometimes from PTSD, they're already off in space someplace, and it kind of draws them back into their body and alert them so they can start using their tools. One of the tools I teach in every session is the 4 and 8 breathing, which is medically proven to reset out of that fear spiral to get back into your body, so you can use some of your tools then to calm yourself. So that's the first session. And I always give some tools in that. I don't want them to leave just because most people with PTSD blame themselves. They think it's their personality that they have to control everything, or that's the way they are all the time. No, this is something
They're feeling
happened
really
to
called
them.
out right now. I was walking around
Yeah,
in the front yard. I have an alignment technique. I'm actually working
yeah,
on this really a lot right now. So I'm
that's what I
getting into
call it.
those emotional spaces and I'm drawing this out. And so, yeah, I feel incredibly called out because there's this sense that I don't necessarily like myself because I'm hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, and because I'm not like everybody else, or there's some kind of shame involved, again, that gets put on us from the outside. And it's like, then we start internalizing it and saying these negative things to ourselves. And then I call it one of the symptoms in PTSD is self-abuse. Those people that go to the bar room and get drunk and just beat me up because I'm a piece of you know what. So there's so many symptoms in that affects life that doesn't have to be this way once you learn some skills. But the second session I do is a training, because what do you do? What do you have to respond to? How do I do this? Because that's the piece that the training most people think is you have to go pay thousands of dollars to have a dog trained to respond. But that's not necessarily true. If you understand the ADA law, what it entails, and that the training is truly, they have to recognize, respond, and reduce your psychological symptoms. They have to be behaviorally trained. Our emotional support animals before this had to be you have to be under your control and be able to, be in public with other dogs and people. But it's not about the training, so to speak. It's about understanding how your dog relates to you, usually intuitively. That's not trained. I mean, you can train them to respond just like a child with reinforcement when they do the right behavior, Same
I
thing
don't
with your
have the
dog.
consistency to train myself. How am I going to have the consistency to train my dog?
Maybe your wife helps you. If Christina notices that, and what's your dog's name?
Velvet.
Velvet.
Velvet. Aw. But if Velvet starts noticing that again, you're getting unregulated, let's just call it, right? And good girl, good girl. That's reinforcement. That then she will continue to do that thing to get the reinforcement. Or my dog's little, so I used to even use little sunflower seeds and have them close by. Oh, good boy. And I would give it to him. That's training. And you can do that till they do it consistently, which that's what the law requires, that they do this consistently without being asked, they respond, and that reduces it. But in this training, what I do also, did you want to ask something, Christina?
Oh, it's just that, yes, she does that, but she can't be polite to other dogs. She barks all the time. So there's that second part of that training that really throws people off if the dog is basically obnoxious and not a good pet out in the space. How can they be a therapy dog if they can't behave as well? So that's I guess where a lot of people disconnect when they see the vests and the tags and the things like that, is because the dog is going off barking, and it's like, but how can yeah.
Okay. And I'm just gonna nicely correct you. They're not considered therapy dogs. Those are for ones that go into hospitals or senior centers. They don't have to have any of this certification at all. But service dogs, they do have to be under your control. So that would be part of behavioral training that you're talking about. That's maybe when you do go to PetSmart and do the 6-week program, that they do have to sit, stay calm. When a dog comes, you have to be able to say whatever that command is, enough, and tell them what to do. And so that is part of this, but it's not part of the ADA law, what is considered trained to do a task.
Okay.
So there's
That makes
two
more
different
sense.
pieces to this. And the other piece, I think every week as I do this training with clients, they'll say something, well, what if they bark? Dogs bark. Dogs are animals, and they do bark. Some
Thank
do
you.
it to,
Thank you.
yeah, they're not
She's a
little
dog. She's
people that,
supposed to bark. Stop telling her to be quiet all the time.
if they're doing it in response to protect you in that sense, or that they're noticing you're starting to get anxious because people are coming closer to you, that actually may be a task. So it is a bit, that's where I go through this with clients to understand, to differentiate some of this. So you do understand that a dog can bark, but they then must come under your control. Okay, Velvet, that's enough. Thank you, good girl. And then she reels back and she becomes more under your control. Yeah, so there is that piece that they do have to have behavioral training. They can't go biting dogs.
Right.
And sometimes, like when I go on the plane, I have what I call a little pulley backpack that he sits on top of it. I don't put him inside it, but he just kind of rides on top of it with his little paws and head out of the back. But if I need to, I can zip it up. And that's also like his little crate or his den. And he knows quiet time now. So, you have to learn some technique. Not much different from what you do with your children in a store. You prepare. You know what to do. You know what your reinforcers are in moments of crisis.
Yeah, I have this little doggy carrier I can carry across my chest. I put her in my shirt. She's quiet.
Yes.
She's asleep. I have this beautiful little warm thing keeping me comfortable.
Yes. And how does that make you feel?
Sometimes it irritates the heck out of me how needy she is, because I say I'm her support animal. She's not my support dog. So, but other times it's like a blessing. And sometimes my last dog was supposed to be my last dog. And I didn't want another one, but a bunch of people kept telling us, doctors were telling us that we should get one. And the reason I don't want a dog is because of how attached I get to them, not because I don't like them. So yes.
So you're saying she does not calm you. She does
So
not comfort you or give
sometimes she
you
does.
something.
It's like I have her in my hand about to squish her and break her neck, and it's like, oh, this isn't appropriate. I must be really upset. And then I calm down and I hold her, and it's like, so she puts herself in danger for me
To get him to settle.
sometimes. And so yes, sometimes
That's
it's not,
like an
it's difficult to recognize that in the moment.
you should hear that as your alert. Uh-oh, I need to use my aligning technique as you go. I need to start breathing. I need to get emotionally regulated because to me, this is very similar to an autistic child with their meltdowns or an adult with dementia. They're starting to get, agitated and out of control. And usually you put a dog or have the dog being responding to that. Usually petting has been shown to actually calm our nervous system. So, it may be you adjusting a little or using that more as your alert system to be able to start calming yourself, maybe with petting or breathing, so that that would help regulate you.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
And she found the trigger somewhere up my nose, so that's kind of why it gets irritating because she gets in my face and she licks my nose, and that's how she's like, you need to
You're
pay
definitely
you
done.
need to pay attention to me now.
See, that's your alert signal. I think you're missing as and interpreting as something else.
Oh
If
yeah.
you interpreted that as she's trying to tell me something, uh-oh, what's my next thing I need to do? It's within 3 to 5 seconds. We don't have long to get into our next skill of emotional regulation before we can escalate. That's when I say start doing the 4 and 8 breathing. 4 counting in your nose, breathing, counting backwards, 8 out your mouth. Medically proven to send a calming chemical into your system within that 1 minute. You can feel it and it resets that agitation. But I think if you would look at it as alert, oh, she's alerting me. Oh, what do I need to do? Or maybe instead of expecting her to do it, you have to start using that as your signal that she's giving you to do your own work.
And I just want to point out here as a concrete strategy, because a lot of our parents are listening for these things. What you were just talking about is that breathing. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need an alert animal to do it. You as a
No, you do
parent,
not. No, you
please
do not.
look and listen
Yes,
to your children. You see them start going off, teach them that breathing, teach them some kind
absolutely.
of cue or signal. Let's calm down instead of going higher with this. Use that breathing technique with your kids, right? So, yes, this show is a lot about
Absolutely.
animals, but guess what, parents? You are your child support person and you can be helping them with
Yeah,
this stuff
we had
too.
bells set up in Christina's classroom when she was
Yeah, it was
teaching,
amazing.
and that would randomly go off 3 different sounds. And on the short bell, they would do a short breath. On the medium bell, they would take a different kind of a breath. And on the long bell, they would stand up and do a
And
do a process. And so it's like, and
yeah.
throughout the day. So yes, the
Three
psychosomatic.
times a day is right, morning, noon, and night, because that will lower the overall. I call it, yeah, we're already up to, I'm going to kind of point to my mouth here. We might be here during the day, but something goes off, we go way over our head into a real dysregulation.
Bring it
This
back.
can bring that regulation down, closer to your neck or chest. So you're not going to go off quite so much because you are getting more regulated. Absolutely, for parents, this is one of those regulation. We know that emotional regulation is one of the keys to be able to keep things calm in your home because the parent is the one that sets that tone. So
Yeah.
absolutely to do that.
Breathing changed my life. Most people think they've been doing it their whole life. They know what
I
they're
hear that all the
doing.
time.
Like, oh, I've been
I
breathing my
breathe.
whole life. I
I
know what I'm doing.
breathe.
Like, you have no idea what you're doing. I've actually changed my breath pattern consistently. And now if my breath gets out and I notice that I'm catching it, so if I ever hear that, I realize that I'm holding my breath. So you breathe up and you go, that's not a good pattern for me. So I roll my breath. I've been doing it consistently for about 15 years. At the top of my breath, I start breathing out. And so I start breathing out
Good.
before I finish breathing in. And I start breathing in before that you can feel it roll. Okay. I do that intentionally. And now when I hear a catch, it's like, okay, something's wrong. I'm not breathing
I'm
correctly.
tense or
Yeah.
something.
And
Yeah.
so there is so
Yeah.
much you can get out of your breath, and that I paid so much attention to it that I
Good.
changed my default breathing pattern.
Oh, I can't agree more. And that's why yogis have used it for thousands of years. This isn't new. But you know what I have found too, I really medically researched this 4 and 8 because it stimulates your vagus nerve,
Mhm.
which, is the longest nerve from your gut to your brain. And then it sends this chemical to every major organ. So it's sending the positive, calming instead of the cortisol with the stress that you start probably are with that breath you were talking about. You're starting to send that adrenaline or whatever into your system. And within we're resetting. And one of the things I've really found is count as you breathing out your mouth, counting the 8 backwards. It's like hypnosis, counting 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's like, it's just like an automatic release.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, I have had clients with post-traumatic stress disorder that had IBS or irritable bowel syndrome for
Mhm.
their entire life. From anxiety situation, I just remember him saying, I'm gonna do this. And he did it 3 times a day. It took him 6 weeks though. But his IBS went away and never came back. So there is some phenomenal testimonies of what we're calling just breathing
Just
breathing.
does.
Yeah.
It
And if
is
you want to
different.
get like the next level is the triangle breathing, the 4-7-8. So you breathe in for 4, you hold your breath for 7, you breathe out for 8, and then you breathe in for 4. And that anything where you
Sorry,
breathe
interrupting.
in for less than you breathe out or hold is calming. If you need more
Yeah.
energy, then you do a quick breath or you do a slow breath and then a quick breath out. That builds pressure. So there's so much that you
Learn
can
about
do
breathing.
with this.
There is.
And
And I know these.
and then the way my brain works, the 4-7-8, I was like, okay, that's not good enough. I'm gonna add the Tesla stuff in. I'm gonna make it 3-6-9 instead of 4-7-8 and put in the magic frequency number, blah. So I go crazy with this stuff.
Yeah.
I have fun with it and play with it. So
Well, and I found a lot of my clients with anxiety, that's too complicated.
mm,
They need something simple. And that's what the medical researchers that found this 4 in your nose and 8 out your mouth, or double whatever you do in, out. That was the key that sent this calming chemical in. So they were looking for what sends in this acetylcholine to calm you. So that's why I teach that one. Yeah,
oh
there's
yeah,
tons of different
super
ones.
simple.
And that's what it seems like it came down to for them. It's just like I can remember 4 in, 8 out, double what I do in, out, and it seems like, and I think for children as well, sometimes simpler can be the easiest and even used for learning counting. Let's just use this right now and practice it.
Yeah. Oh, you got to start simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
then build,
Yeah.
play.
because there's so many
Yeah.
different breathing techniques and things that you can do
Yeah.
specifically to affect different parts of your life. But the calming, the vagus nerve, 4-8, super
Mhm.
duper simple. Can't go wrong with that.
No, they cannot.
Okay, we kind of got off on a tangent on breathing, but that's
We
okay.
did.
It is so important, right? Because whether it's an
It
aunt,
is.
whether it's a parent, it's a whatever, you tune into that breathing, it really, really helps. But I want to bring us
Yeah.
back around to, we were talking about how to kind of get started maybe with searching out to see if you want a therapy dog, not a therapy dog,
Yep.
support dog, etc.
Yeah,
And I know
service
you
dog.
also have your
Service dog.
book. Does your book
Yes,
talk
I
about
do.
that dog as being a support dog, or is it a little bit different? Remind
It
me
does.
of your book.
It does. And then I'll go back to the little process about
Okay.
what to do. But I did write this book, and I'm going to show it. I know this may be
Oh, please do.
only on audio, but it's called Super Dog Helps Boys Fear. And the cover is a boy that's kind of sad and looking off, and it's a little dark. It's kind of, he's feeling pretty dark.
Mhm.
And then he's got his little service dog Whimsy with him, and that brightens his life. Because what he found was that he was withdrawing. The kids were making fun of him, and hey, I don't want to go out and play anymore. And so he was staying home more and more, and he had Whimsy as a dog, and he could see that it made him happier. But then his teacher at school noticed, Jay, you're really getting really sad. Why don't you talk to a counselor? And when he talked to the counselor said, well, if this little dog really helps you to do more in life, he could be your service dog. So he goes out with his dog and finds then he could interact with others easier. He is happier. He can do more with friends. And eventually he didn't need the little dog, but he had him and he thought the little dog had the magic inside the dog. And what he learned was he brought it out in him that he could have it too. And so it's really sweet.
Good
It
story.
is. And then what I think I like the best about it too, I put in here all about qualifying for a psychiatric service dog or an emotional support dog, but I also put in a worksheet about questions to ask as a parent. One is what makes you worried worksheet. So you can ask the child, is there something on your mind that has been making you feel worried or nervous? So it opens up conversations about emotions. There's also about anger, which I think sometimes parents really fear. I don't know what to do with this. Right. And understanding it a little bit easier. And I give tips for asking these kinds of questions because I think it's scary for parents sometimes. I don't know what to do, am I going to make it worse, but with I think anger and is stay calm and non-reactive, that emotional regulation first, so you're not reacting, this creating a safe space, validating their feelings. Sometimes that's all it needs to be. Yeah, I see what's going on, your face is red. You're getting tense, and commenting on what the body language is sometimes takes it off. You are looking like this, and not getting into that kind of overpowering stance. But oh my goodness, I see this is really upsetting. Do you think we could talk about the situation that started this? Did somebody say something? Or so it just brings out the conversations. So yeah, so that's why I wrote the book. It's really for parents, actually, in a storytelling way, to see how a dog may be able to help their child.
I love it. Perfect. Because, we like to make sure that parents are walking away from this episode with something, right? So now we have a couple of different things, some breathing and some changes on ideas around anxiety in the book. So thank you, Joanne, so much for sharing all of that. You said you want to share one more thing about our just before.
Yeah. The process to get it done, because I do a training session because people do not know what you are required to answer in public or any place. And there's only 2 questions. But if they don't know, a lot of people, I don't have to answer anything to anyone. Well, no, by law, you do. And so that's where I train them, and coming out with the way that their dog actually does help them. And we talk about those symptoms, and that's the way you explain it, how they recognize, respond, and reduce whatever your symptoms are. They do get a little ID card as well. That just is verification and is helpful for going into stores and places, as well as how to fill out an airline form. You have to fill out at least 2 days before. There's actually a CDC form if you want to bring the dog back in from other country. Right. And I always want to go through what happens if somebody tries to refuse you. So I want them to be prepared. Yeah. Because we know things can kind of get anxiety producing. Anybody asks you anything and they do the deer in the headlights. Oh my God, what did I supposed to say? So we really practice that so they can feel confident to use their dog more and do more in their life, which to me, that's what it's all about.
And I appreciate that because really, because we have this whole scam mentality kind of thing, and then the real ones and things like that. And so if you really can respond in a way that shares appropriately, it totally takes away the pressure and the anxiety around it. So,
yeah, because with me, we kind of talked about this a little bit. It's like the damage to my brain makes me incredibly conflict averse. I back away, but I also get angry really easy. So this is a really, really bad combination, to get angry really easy and not be able to handle conflict.
Yeah. I agree. I had a lady this week that had an aneurysm in her brain and survived, but same exact thing. And she starts stuttering and starts, kind of shutting down because her brain is kind of on fire because she gets that anxious. And so we cut it down to the simplest form. My dog helps me with my anxiety. I mean, we just
Right.
really
My dog
simplified it.
keeps me from hurting you.
Yes. And you know what else? I put it on the back of the ID card that this is all you can ask. What is the task my dog is trained to do? Or is it required because of a disability? So they can just show it. This is
Yeah.
all you can ask me. Because there are really a lot of people that have these kind of and you look fine, that they look fine, and people do not realize. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think
because I
people
have my dog with me. Yeah, I'm very pleasant at the
use
moment
him,
because I have my
use
dog
him,
with me. It's like
use
my
him.
dog is my happy pill, like that show. I was like,
It
I'm going to stop
is.
taking my happy pill, and in a couple of days, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk again. So,
I don't doubt it. Well, they can find out more at servicedogpro.com. There's actually a 30-second guide about qualification. They can just see everything, answers questions. And, I'm also going to share, there's actually a book that I've written also that answers 99% of the questions about this that I can also send you a link to that. But yeah, that helps people get out of that mentality that somebody said it was a scam, or somebody said, oh, you hear all this, somebody says, and get the facts, so the law. So again, you can build that confidence inside.
I appreciate that. I'm glad you just said that all out loud because that was going to be my next question, right? How do we do, etc. Of course, don't forget, audience, that everything is also down in the show notes, and there is a gift in the show notes from Joanne as well to all of our listeners. So follow those show notes, open up that app and look at it, or go to the website and look at it because all her information is there. So, Joanne, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Is there one last thing that we didn't get to that you really wanted to share before we wrap up?
I would just like to share you don't have to go through anxiety alone in life. There are ways to conquer this, and you just build skills. It's just like doing algebra. You had to go to, fifth, sixth grade to get there. This is no different. Building some skills in moments you'll know what to do that builds that confidence. So please just understand it like that. Therapy doesn't have to be dredging up old things. It can just be skill building.
Awesome. Thank you so
and,
very
and I would
much.
like to second that because when you're in it and you're in those anxiety things, that is the hardest time to reach out. So it is so easy to say,
It
oh,
is.
I tell people to reach out. And when I'm in that darkness, I don't reach out because it's like, who am I? I can handle this. I teach other people how to. So it's not easy for me to reach out and swallow that pill and reach out the first time. And you will be amazed at how much help you can get, whether it's me, whether it's her. Start talking to a dog. Get it out. That,
Yeah.
boys had dogs
And
when I grew up. It's like I
A
don't
boy and his
remember not
dog.
having a dog. So it's like,
There's a reason.
so yeah.
and that's why we do this.
So yeah. So
Call us. That's why we do it. We
so
want
I
to
would like to
share what
thank
we
you for
know.
being here today.
Yeah,
There are
thank you.
so many people who need this and are out there and just are afraid to reach out. And hopefully some of them have heard you today. Because again, so many people, again, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to turn. And if they're listening here, it's like we bring good quality people here. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for what you're doing. It's a pleasure to see you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, audience, we do have to wrap up our show for today, but please, please, please follow, like, subscribe, share, all those things. I bet you know another family who is sitting there going, oh, wow, their kiddos have these issues. And what would be a miracle to give them maybe a dog or a cat or something that can help reduce that anxiety and know how to take it around appropriately and properly so that everybody can get the help that they need. So please, please, please share, like, and respond. And then don't forget, visit us at vibrantfamilyeducation.com, where you can find our events, our services, and of course, all the different wonderful guests that have been on our show. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts